The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission says it will remove the former Director General of the Labour Party Presidential Campaign Council, Doyin Okupe, from its watch list following his arrest in Lagos. Okupe was arrested and then released by the Department of State Services at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport. He has reportedly been on the EFCC's watch list for 6 years. The DSS cited its cooperation with the EFCC as the reason for Okupe's arrest. In December, Okupe was sentenced to 2.5 years in prison for breaching the Money Laundering Act with an option of paying 13 million naira worth of fines. He escaped going to jail after paying the conviction fine. Well, to speak more on Okupe's arrest and EFCC's clarification, as well as give an overview of the Labour Party's campaign and how the gale of endorsements the party's presidential candidate, Peter Obi, could give him a victory in next month's election is the Director General of the Labour Party's presidential campaign, Akin Osuntokun, who joins us now on Newsday. Good afternoon. Great to have you on the program with us today. Of course, we have heard of all of the endorsements that have flown in the way of your Labour Party candidate, most recently former President Olusegun Obasanjo. How has this impacted the party thus far? And do you expect any more large endorsements between now and the next 45 days when we go to vote?
Yes, of course, there are going to be more endorsements. There's no doubt about that. And the political context in Nigeria today is quite different from what had happened before. Before, it used to be the difference between the two dominant parties was very, they were like half and six, and have a dozen. I mean, you have movement from PDP to APC to, and one of the presidential candidates actually typifies that. So, but now there's a third option, there's a clear difference, there's a clear choice apart from these two. And in any respect you want to, in any rational parameters you want to use to measure, the kind of president Nigeria should be looking forward to. I know, especially, against the background, of what has happened to Nigeria in the past 7.5 years under the presidential guide of General Muhammadu Buhari. But now there is a new sheriff in town who is head and shoulders above any of his candidates. I mean, and as a matter of fact, you examine the other two tickets, are really incurably defective. One has the liability, of rubbishing, the principle of power rotation that has helped in stabilizing, the political scene in Nigeria, that's helped in stabilizing the Nigerian polity. It's a fundamental challenge, to that principle, to the facility of guaranteeing political stability in Nigeria. What the PDP has done by the choice of its candidate is a direct challenge to that facility. The other one has Muslim ticket. It speaks in the same fashion, it speaks for itself. What that represents for Nigeria at this period in time. And of course, it wasn't a ticket that was forced on the candidate. It was deliberate. Now, how can any presidential candidates in Nigeria today deliberately choose as his running mate a person of the same faith? It's such a cynical, disservice to the country itself. So those two, in this respect, those two tickets, they are incurably defective. There's nothing you can do about it other than change the whole ticket itself. It cannot be remedied, what they represent. On the contrary, you have a balanced ticket, of the Labour Party presidential candidate and his running mate. You have a Christian from the south and a Muslim from the north. That's the spirit. Anybody working from the premise of national integration, there is no, that is the specific formula, that can guarantee a movement in that direction. The two other presidential tickets, draws Nigeria back and negates the notion of nationhood. It negates the idea of Nigeria attaining national integration. So by these simple parameters, alone, not to talk of the individuals involved. I mean, look at the presidential candidate. I mean, can you compare the energy that he has with the other two? Can you compare his articulation of ideas, to the point of people complaining that he cites too many statistics? Can you compare that with any of the other candidates?
Well, very well said, Mr. Osuntokun.
That's the rhyme.
Well, very well said. Well, very well said, yes. A lot of people have referred to the fact that he does quote a lot of statistics. Some people have even questioned it. But my next question is about Dr. Okupe, the former DG, of the Labour Party's presidential campaign. He seems to be making a lot of headlines nowadays. He was wrongly arrested and later released by the DSS on Thursday. But I'd like to know what you make of the explanation given by the EFCC. Would you say he's been deliberately targeted, like some people are speculating? And if he is, why?
I think it's calculated to embarrass him. The judgment was a public judgment, and the EFCC could not have said they were not aware of the judgment. And his traveling passport that was seized, was released to him. So what you are witnessing is political theater. As I said, I wouldn't know why that is the case. The person, if anybody in EFCC were to claim that he was not aware, of the judgment, I think that person should go on temporary leave. If that is not the case, if it is deliberate, then the only thing you can say is that this theater was calculated to embarrass him. That's a simple, and even the immigration officials themselves, they could have used their initiative, to say that, look, this man has been cleared. On what basis was his traveling passport released to him? If he is still any under constraint not to leave the country. So as you speculate, it's calculated to embarrass him. It's political theater.
Well, it seems that you have had to step into the role that was vacated due to this situation. And as the Labour Party soldiers on towards February, we know that very briefly, because we're almost out of time, the criticism from the Labour Party is the lack of structure in certain geopolitical zones that might be able to clinch the ticket. Is there any work being done there that you can share with us? And is that a concern?
I couldn't hear you well. Your voice was scrambled. And I have no means of reassembling them. There was, I understood it. I couldn't make head of tail of what you said.
Okay, I'm talking about
some of what you said I didn't hear.
Okay, I'm talking about the fact that the criticism of Labour Party is lack of structure. Is this something that is being actively worked on within certain geopolitical zones between now and the next 40 days when we go to vote?
I think let's define what you mean by structure. The only practical interpretation of what people call political structure in Nigeria, is what my principal has described as a culture structure of criminality. Look, you have This is only in Nigeria that you find this kind of a category. Of course, it's a negative category. In all democracies, right? You have party, that is the job of the party. Your political party is your structure. If you needed something extra to that, and which has been demonstrably been the case in Nigeria, they are used for thuggery, they are muscle men, they are forgers, they are always those in charge of, illegitimate errands. Those are the people they call structures in Nigeria, and also maybe the distributor of the bribe or whoever is buying the votes. So we don't need that kind of structure. I told you earlier on that we are bringing, a paradigm shift, to Nigerian politics. And that is one of the areas we are going to be tested. So these people, anybody here, I think it's high time that you ask all these people, what precisely do they mean by structures? They kept on hampering on it all the time. So what is it? The only way you can explain what this structure means is an extraneous, category to the normal political system. And of course, most of the things they do are the negative things that have plagued, elections in Nigeria as such. So we don't need those kind of structures.
Well, DG Labour Party presidential campaign, Mr. Akin Osuntokun, thank you so much for joining us on Newsday.